phone ring, 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 ring. 949298290. That's 949298290. Events, connection, and opportunity. All in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. 949298290. That's 949298290.
They discovered it, they read it, and they applied it. It's the golden thread that connects the titans of the self-development industry, the source that spawned millions of millionaires, the original blueprint to success.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. A classic.
And I love Think and Grow Rich. I love it. It's right here. I mean, it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
This material is what changed my life. This is the material I study every day. From being an immigrant woman, coming from poverty, and really coming to America and literally achieving the American dream. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for this man, for what he did for me and my family.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
People don't realize is that when we let our ego get in our way, ego is the loss, the fear of loss. So need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be hurt, fearful. When that trajectory changes, what happens is you continually go the wrong way. So my job as a coach is to say, let's get into the enjoyment of the direct pursuit of my potential. Right? And so when the light went on, it was not about the potential of making money and being an entrepreneur, which is one of my specialties. And I said to him, look, this is an opportunity now to show how great you really are. We can't let the outside voices, right, determine our success. The happiness that we have comes within. Why are you going to give that control to somebody else?
Thoughts become things. And I always wonder, why did no one teach us this? Why did we not learn this in school? Why did we not learn this from our families? If you make your study a priority, your life will change.
And I came up with 4 really valuable things that I took stock in. And the first one was gratitude. Simple gratitude. Although I grew up with nothing, I was always grateful. Throughout the whole process of consistently, persistently pursuing my potential, I was grateful. It made my past better, my present brighter, and my future even brighter than that. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, change your employee's life, your family life, it's very simple. 2 words, say thank you.
Welcome, everyone, right on time for the love language of time. And speaking of love, I certainly love Blaine Bartlett. He's changed my life as my mentor, my teacher, my coach. He's moving possibilities into reality on our mission to empower over 1 billion people. BlaineBartlett.com. Welcome to the incredible Napoleon Hill training.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to be here as always. You're looking good. You're back home off the road a little bit, huh?
Yeah, we're getting ready
tonight?
for our Japan trip.
Mastermind Thursday.
Yeah, we got Bill Walsh today and Tim Story and Marie Diamond. We got good people at home that we don't have to travel all around the world to see. So it's really nice to be at home here in Orange County. Speaking of which, here at the Napoleon Hill Institute training, we'd love to give you our schedule. Over 200 cities that we are in. It just won't be in the next 7 days. We'll be traveling around Southern California to make it easy on me. But we are in South Coast Plaza today at Maggiano's with Bill Walsh, the CEO Summit. Newport Beach tomorrow with Tim Story, Jay Abraham, John Coyle, Marie Diamond. then off to Japan, one of the places that I'm still probably should reach out to Blaine for some good recommendations. He spent quite a bit of time in Japan. We'll be there. All of these include meetup, holding court, interviews, and of course, VIP dinners for charity, except for we also add masterminds and a few other things in on some of these cities. Speaking of masterminds, Louisville, Kentucky is on our radar with, that's right, Nick Saban and I. You may know Nick Saban, the great coach, who actually coached at University of Washington. Most people may not know that. He was one of the coaches when Warren Moon played in 1977 and 78 in University of Washington. Then out to Kalamazoo, Michigan, speaking, holding court interviews. Chicago in between that. Then Las Vegas for season 11, Blaine. So you got to pick your poison when you're coming out to visit us.
Yep.
Since we are, it takes about 4 different filmings at the Wynn in Las Vegas to get it all done. Then back to Newport Beach for another amazing Tim Story and David Meltzer mastermind right in our backyard. That's a pretty good few weeks as usual into our journey of helping others. If you want to be informed or invited, it's really easy. You heard the jingle, but now you get to hear it from me. 949-298-2905. Area code 949. You'll be invited and informed. 298-2905. I know I'm doing things right because we have over-committed so many people just in a few days, over-commit to what we're doing, but even more indicative of doing things right. I get a few people that say, stop annoying me. You text too much, email too much. I'm like, that's a really good sign. I'm doing what I'm walking the walk from what I teach people today. Well, anyway, let's get right to it, Blaine. You're going to do a Q&A afterwards. Is that still true?
Yep, absolutely. On Breakfast of Champions on Clubhouse.
Yes, one of the greatest thought leaders in the world, the lineage, the coaching tree of Bob Proctor and Napoleon Hill, Blaine Bartlett. Don't miss it after our training today. This one, it's near and dear because the love language of mine is time. And if you don't study time, if you don't understand time, you are wasting time. You are not understanding the human experience, which is based off of linear time. From the time your heart starts till the time it stops, but all time is not equal. Most people do not fail because of bad luck, unfair circumstances, or a lack of opportunity. Those exist for everyone. We fail when we misunderstand the value of time and we allow the interference, the distractions, reactions, and inconsistency to dictate that human experience from the time the heart starts till it stops. We all know people with extraordinary talent and opportunity who never maximize their potential because they waste time on what is urgent instead of what is meaningful. The time that we have is our greatest asset because it's the one thing that we never can get back. It's the subset of God's guarantee of the heart starting to stopping. It's what is divided in between the heart starting and stopping. The 24 hours every day is guaranteed by God every day of your life, except for the last day. So how we spend our time reveals exactly what we love, what we value, and as Blaine teaches, even what we believe to be possible. Lesson number 1, Blaine, is that time is the greatest equalizer. Every one of us receives the same 24 hours. It's God's guarantee each and every day, except for the last day of our lives. But the difference between the extraordinary results and the ordinary results is not time itself, but the value, the meaning we assign to it. How important is it to assign meaning or value to the 24 hours each and every day?
Oh, it's absolutely crucial. As you mentioned in your preface here, we can't go to the bank and get more of it. It is the one asset that we cannot renew. So I'm either going to spend it or I'm going to invest it. And if it's an asset, I want to invest in a way that gives me a return on that investment that is significantly more than what was involved with positioning it. So, yeah, I've got up on my bookshelf here, I've got an hourglass, and I will, just kind of each day just turn it over and watch the sand trickle through as a reminder. Yeah, what am I going to be doing with my day to day? And investing is what it's about. And I mean, as you were talking about your travels, the thing about what do I love? What gives me meaning? Um, it shows up in my calendar. And you are a student of the calendar. I mean, you're one of the best ones I've ever met, in terms of how you work with this. And being able to actually structure that much time in a meaningful way that gives you the experience and gives Julie and your kids, gives your family the experience of fulfillment that kind of comes with that investment is a big deal. So you have to be intentional and mindful about it. And that's what this first lesson is about. It is the great equalizer. It will separate the wheat from the chaff.
Yeah, and it actually can make life easy, dissipating the dis-easy. Like, there's a saying, "Do great things when they are still small," and
Yeah.
I believe that applies to time. Right? You do
Yep.
great things each and every day when it's still small instead of waiting 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, when it seems insurmountable. And that type of uh, discipline, allows us to, as I always say, you know, to see the long-term success. And we see that through the patterns over time and in these small actions of thought, action, discipline, and association, which is something that we talk about. And there's nothing that human beings regret more than wasted time. And so to stay present each and every day. The second lesson that I want to discuss with you is knowing what we want creates that clarity. Why don't you go ahead and explain that to everybody, and then I'll take a question from you if that sounds fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to circle back, given that this is a Napoleon Hill Institute training. Napoleon wrote the book, "The Outwitting the Devil," and I've written another book called "Stop Drifting, Start Living." And both of those books speak to, and my book is actually a response to Napoleon Hill's book on this thing. If we're not clear about what we want in life, if we're not clear about what actually lights us up, and when I say what we want in life, not what my mom or my dad wants for me, not what society wants for me, not what I think is supposed to
Not
be,
what Instagram wants for you.
not what Instagram wants for me. Absolutely. Followers is not what I want in life. And trust me, it's not. Now, I may get followers because I'm following what I want in life. But the key here is if I'm not clear about it, I'm going to be at effect of everything around me. And I will have no reason, compulsion, or ability to push back on the inevitable drift that will begin to occur because I've lost connection to what matters. And that, if we put this in the context of time, the love language of time has to do with what I love. Truly. I mean, it comes back to the love language of time is organized around what would I love, not what I think I should have, but what would I love.
And it's so important to understand that we can learn to love things that we don't love or like. And that's where meaning and relativity come in. That if we're process oriented and detach ourselves from the outcomes, when we learn to love what we don't like or love through what Napoleon Hill talks about, definiteness of purpose, because it is that purpose, as your wife taught me, when the purpose is greater than the pain, we will never quit. And we say that we want success, peace, abundance, fulfillment, but rarely define it, what
Yeah.
it actually looks like in our own lives, not what people want, what's missing, what we don't have, or what other people want for us, especially on social media. Clarity allows and creates aggregation, separates aggregation, acceleration, and exponential growth because it clears the interference and
Yeah.
it allows the energy to flow. And where the energy flows, the attention grows and flows as well. So knowing what we want and who we can help and who can help us allows us to know what's important, and what's important allows us to assign time. And I do that with non-negotiable behavior and negotiable behavior, assigning time every day, 7 days a week, which is why I don't have to go off the grid ever, because I vacation every day. I love the
Yeah.
last holiday because so many of the people around me were like, "Did you enjoy your vacation? I saw you were at, the Pelican Hill with the family, with the Ritz Carlton, and all the." I enjoy vacationing every day. And when people tell me they're burned out, I go to how are you using time each and every
Yeah.
day? Because we should have enough recovery, we should have enough fun, we should have enough family and health and all the other things to allot for, even if we like an additional 12 hours of uh, interfering or more difficult behaviors. If the 12 hours of sleep, health, family, finance, faith, the study of time and study of relativity is inclusive, and we assign it, and then we know who can help with it and who can help us. And then we can work on the systematic side of figuring out how to get it done. But that leads me, and if anybody would like the guide on the what, the who, and the how, email me. David means beloved at D is my first initial. Meltzer means servant. David at dmeltzer.com. Let me be your beloved servant. Email me for the what, the who, and the how exercise, inclusive of love language of time. But the what, the who, and the how leads to lesson number 3. By the way, Blaine, it was so nice. I when I was at Pelican, we were walking, and a gentleman stopped me, and this happens to you, but super excited. He listens to the podcast every day, follows me every day, and he has 5 kids, but his youngest son was back in Montclair, New Jersey, and he calls his son. He's like, "You're not going to believe who I got to meet." He goes, "You know who I make you listen to all the time?" He goes, "The beloved servant." He couldn't remember my name, but he could remember David at dmeltzer.com, the beloved servant. I thought that
Beautiful.
made my whole weekend, by the way. All right. So when you know the what, the who, and the how, this allows us to know what's important to us, for the day, for the day. And that's circumstantial in its nature beyond the non-circumstantial, which is just no circumstance changes what's important to us with the health and the sleep and the family, the finance, the fitness, the faith and the study of time and study of relativity. But prioritizing is determinative upon knowing today,
Right.
knowing the now, knowing the next, and protecting both the non-negotiables, but also prioritizing the negotiables. So our quality of life is actually determined on how well we protect, promote, perfect, and love what matters most. I'm going to repeat that. And you may know somebody that protects us, promotes us, loves, and perfects us the most, because we matter most to our God. But our quality of life in the time span of 24 hours a day that our God guarantees us is determined on how well we protect, promote, love, and perfect what matters most. And so prioritization becomes a key component in order to effectuate that love. And time, obviously, is a common denominator within the context of protection, promotion, love, and perfection of what matters most. And so as we allow these negotiable activities, and I assign 12 of the 24 hours to non-negotiable, but I assign 12 of the 24 hours to negotiable activities, distractions, emotional reactions that interfere with our health, our faith, our family, our purpose, the drifting, as you say. I'm sure you mentioned this in your new book, and it allows for personal growth. This is where ease comes from. Do you have any suggestions, since you're writing a book about the drifters, of prioritization of today, of the now, of the next, that allows us to protect, promote, love, and perfect what matters most?
Yeah, actually, I do. First of all, it just starts with understanding that time is a container, and every container provides, basically a creative constraint. I mean, if I pour a cup of coffee onto the table here, it has no utility to me. I've just got to go find a way to mop it up. But if I pour it into a cup, the cup constrains it, just like you've got in your hand there. That's a grateful mug. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, this is from
There you
Cynthia
go.
Kersey, by the way.
I recognize that one. But that all of a sudden it gives meaning to what's in it. It gives utility to what's in it. You're able to prioritize, metaphorically, the use of that. And time provides that container. So we're talking today about the love language of time. The love language is structure. That's one way to think about it. The love language is structure, and structure enables prioritization. Structure is enabled and created by defining what is meaningful. For the sake of what am I alive? For the sake of what am I doing what I'm doing? For that question of for the sake of what becomes absolutely crucial to being able to separate the wheat from the chaff, to be able to pay attention when all the noise around me is saying, hey, over here, look at me. Isn't this cool? I've got 15,000 followers as you've only got 12. Yeah. People
It's so
start paying
true.
attention to inappropriate things that have nothing to do with for the sake of what matters. That's where we want to actually organize. The love language of love is about structure.
Yeah,
It's
and
probably the
having a
easiest way I
structure
can think
that's
about it.
yeah, and having a structure that separates non-negotiables from negotiables to
Yep.
prioritize what's important and allow urgent as a subset. But this is what protects us from the interference and creates the long-term growth, regardless of what will happen in time every single day, which is circumstances, uncertainty, guaranteed. The certainty is what we do and assign time to within the uncertainties that exist within the 24 hours of certainty of linear man-made constructive time. If you'd like a prioritization guide, if you would like to remain protected, promoted, loved, and perfected, email me, David at dmeltzer.com. David at dmeltzer.com. Let me be your beloved servant. I'm a student of my calendar, Blame, and lesson number 4 revolves around studying, paying attention, and giving intention to what we do, say, think, feel, and believe in alignment with where we want to be, aligning the meaning of the path with utilizing our calendar. And our calendar, you mentioned really earlier, you touched on this. The calendar tells the truth. It reveals how and what's important to us. It reveals what and how we give meaning to our day. There's so much that a calendar reveals, but it only can tell the truth. We can say we value certain things. We can say this is important to us, but our calendar reveals our actual priorities. It separates the extra milers that go the extra mile every once in a while with the empty milers that go every day for less time. I talked to my son who's in finals and I said, never met a kid who studied 15 minutes a day that didn't get an A. I know tons of kids who study 15 hours before the final and don't get A's. Let's get into the habit of the 15-minute a day plan, because we can say we value getting an A, but our calendar reveals what's actually our priorities. And so I see so many people get so busy working, telling me that their family is important to them, so I work so hard. Their health is important with them because they work so hard. That their time is so important to them and they work so hard, or money is so important to them and they get so hard, and they get so busy working that they don't make any money, they don't spend any time with their family, and they lose their health. And so this to me is the great truth sayer, our calendars. I know time is our love language, but where our time goes, our energy flows. Where you and how do you review your calendar to go against human nature, to be honest and repetitive, which is really difficult, but it is two things that the calendar reveals to us: the honesty and the repetitiveness.
Yeah. The easy answer to that is, time, God invented time so everything didn't happen all at once. That's one way to start. And if
Even though it
everything,
does.
it all happens at once. So we don't experience it.
Just
It's
not in your
happening all at once.
consciousness. Just not in your consciousness. So he created time so you can separate everything and everyone all at once in a human experience. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly, and that's what the calendar makes
Blaine
possible.
taught me
You
that,
want
by
to
the way.
study. Yeah, how am I separating? The idea of, an audit, do a calendar audit. Now, what's interesting here is if you're really honest and rigorous with this, you begin to notice the patterns. And human beings work in patterned ways. That's kind of how we make sense of the world, is through the patterns that we observe. The calendar will tell me what patterns are in play in my life. And the way that we move to excellence is not, as you mentioned, doing a study overnight to try to do that. The way we move to excellence is through patterns, 15 minutes a day, 7 days a week, doing what it is that is consistent with what matters to me in my life. I say I love my family. Do I show up with my family every day? I start to notice the pattern. Now, there will be breaks in that, obviously, because all of a sudden something happens. But I want to look at where's the pattern. Where's the pattern? If the pattern is populated by breaks, then I've got some problems, because that's where drift really is showing up. And I'm moving away from what it is that I say I would love to have, be, and do. And
It's so true.
the audit is crucial.
Yeah, it's so true. The clues that exist in the calendar, the patterns that we see in its physical materialization help us to make the prioritized choices by the uncertainty of time. If you'd like a guide on being a student of your calendar, studying and paying attention to what's important to you and giving intention of what you do, say, think, feel, and believe in alignment to coincide for the coincidences of your life, student of your calendar exercise at David at David Meltzer or David at dmeltzer.com. David at dmeltzer.com. Let me be your beloved servant and just go ahead and email me. Blaine, I'm gonna let you take the compounding effect of daily actions, lesson number 5, and then maybe you can ask me a question.
Great. Well, again, I'm going to circle back to the nature of patterns. The way that excellence in life occurs, not perfection in life, is through pattern structures, repetition. And there's a compounding effect on this. There truly is. If you want to have confidence that you can do something, you don't just go out and buy confidence. You begin to experience it day by day, moment by moment, hour by hour. Yeah, and it starts to stack. And that's what we're doing. And how it stacks is a function of how I calendar my time, how I actually begin to pay attention to what matters. And those sorts of things start to come into play. So rather than being scattered, where I don't have the access to the compounding effect, this is where prioritization comes into play. I want to be able to prioritize what are the non-negotiables, as you're mentioning. The non-negotiables become something that allows me to begin to stack, compound, and eventually develop. If I'm going to use confidence as an example here, develop the confidence, the experience of confidence that allows me to step into a stage with 10,000 people in the audience. That sort of thing. That doesn't happen overnight. I don't just pull the trigger on that or flip the switch. I actually have built the confidence over time. There are no overnight successes. There are people that exhibit success as a result of compounded time spent doing, invested in doing that which matters and contributes to what they say they want to have, do, or be. So, if we go back in time here, and I'm going to go back about 15 years, 12, 15 years, when you started moving into what you're doing now. I remember going to one of your meetups in Marina Del Rey in the library, and there was me and you. It's kind of like, okay, what are we doing here? He says, well, I do these all the time. And the external results do not indicate to me this ultimate success of what I'm doing. The external results are momentary snapshots in time. The aggregation is what we're looking for. So the question here has to do with, how did you handle the experience of looking around going, okay, this doesn't appear to be working?
You're right. Well, it's consistency that always beats intensity. And there's the compounding nature of all matter, that daily disciplines eventually become the coincidences. And when we look for the patterns of our behavior, of association, like our association or thoughts or actions, uh, we understand that focusing in on and being great with the small daily disciplines are what actually compounds daily, that leads to having over 1,000 people come to a meetup. If somebody would have told me 15 years ago, when one or two people showed up to the meetups, that someday they would have to have police around me in an area because so many people were attending, I would have had a hard time believing it. Just the same as if somebody would have told me almost 20 years ago, when I lost everything, that I'd be in the position I am today. I would have laughed at it as well. So, understanding the compounding effect of clues, patterns, and choices of behaviors, mainly knowing that consistency always beats intensity. And that's where those extra milers are, right? They're very
Mhm.
intense for a short amount of time. They go the extra mile every once in a while, and then they use that to justify why they aren't where they want to be. Where the people that show up every city, donate an hour of their time every Wednesday for Napoleon Hill Institute training. It's those people that get the exponentiality of outcomes that they couldn't even imagine. And they don't imagine it. They imagine what it takes every day to do it and allow the outcomes to manifest themselves better than they could imagine, not limiting themselves by worrying about, wow, only two people are here. And that takes a lot of practice. Getting into the last lesson, anybody wants that consistency lesson that Blaine described, David at dmeltzer.com, or the guide from today or the replay, David at dmeltzer.com. Reminder, Blaine will be sticking around after this last lesson to answer questions, which is a huge blessing for all of us. One of the world's biggest thought leaders here with us every Wednesday to answer questions. Lesson 6 is about awareness, and awareness is so powerful when it is an awareness that has this infinite loop of gratitude involved in it. Most suffering is a choice because it comes from the interference, the fear, resentment, comparison, the judgment, and need to control, defend, or prove ourselves. When we hold onto these, when we hold on to the interference that we create and operate from scarcity, we disconnect from the ease, the peace, the abundance, the possibility that Blaine teaches, and even the probability and perspective that gives us the ability to make a lot of money for the sake of helping others and having fun. This awareness is what allows us to get alignment, to take action, and to make the appropriate adjustment. Gratitude within the infinite loop will raise our awareness to make life easy. Elevating awareness means I'm now aware of that which I am interfering with, because we are connected to and through an infinite, abundant, unified system of thought. We're connected to an infinite amount of intelligence, intuition, energy, and inspiration. And the greater our awareness, the easier it is to determine what we're doing to interfere with that infinite loop that we belong to. Blaine, you've created and practiced a great awareness in your life, and you have had many circumstances that gave you an opportunity to suffer, but you chose to learn and to grow and to live in the infinite for the majority of time. I repeat, the majority of time.
Yep.
This infinite loop of energy, infinite intelligence, intuition, and inspiration is only utilized effectively with awareness. For you, when did your enlightenment or awareness start, and how has it evolved?
Oh goodness. Well, it started, if I could, put a pin in it, probably about 1972. Yeah, right around that. I had taken, yeah, I love to read. I'm a very eclectic reader. I've got, thousands of books in storage as well as on my bookcase and stuff. And Bob Proctor, also, a mutual friend of ours, may he rest in peace, was an insatiable reader. And the idea of reading has to do with not just how many books have I read, but how deeply have I gone into the books. And that's where I think awareness really serves. Awareness, the value of awareness is it illuminates choices I've never recognized as being present before. And it's with the awareness of choice that I can then begin to do some things differently. So when I talk, when you ask me about um, the idea of moving past suffering, as an example, I mean, I've had, we're adults here. I've had shit happen in my life, just as you have. I haven't lost $100 million. Um, but I've lost a lot of other stuff in the process. Yeah.
Much more important things than money. Yes.
Well, yes, everything is, we assign importance and whatnot to it. And when it's lost, I can do one of two things. And one of them is, oh my God, this is horrible. This shouldn't have happened. How dare the universe conspire against me and all of that sort of stuff. Or I can move to a position of a recognition that the universe is an abundant place. You can't outgive the universe. There is so much. And Bob was really important about and insistent about that. You cannot outgive the universe. Mary Morrissey's also a very good dear friend of both of ours. She's always talking about you can't outgive the universe. And the idea of abundance, and this is kind of a way that I encapsulate all three of these components in this particular lesson. If I act as nature does, there's nothing in nature that serves as a center of accumulation. Everything in nature serves as a center of distribution in some way, shape, or form. So just that notion, in the fullness of time, everything will eventually serve as a center of distribution. I will at some point in time return to the earth, either in the form of ash or whatever it is, but I will return. So everything just kind of goes full cycle. That metacognition, that meta awareness allows me to understand that there's nothing ever lost. There's nothing ever lost. And if there's nothing ever lost in the fullness of time, I have no reason to suffer because I don't have access to it right now. It's still present. It's still present. It's just transforming. It's just, moving itself. And that's the nature of transformation. Transformation isn't about being better. It's about being different. Yeah. I end up being different as I grow. I'm a different person today in the fullness of time. And that's how all of this stuff kind of conspires here. And the key here is it's an abundant universe. And what my job is in the context of time is to be able to structure my time in a way that allows for me to be abundantly rich and fulfilled in this day, moment, hour, year that I have to play with.
And that is the love language of time. If anybody, in that respect, it's so interesting, Blaine. You can't outgive the universe, but you can't outreceive the universe. And people confuse receiving with taking.
Yeah.
Because receiving is a gift. And so we might get into that on another training. But if anybody would like the AAA strategy to awareness, just email me. David means beloved at D is my first initial. Meltzer means servant. David at dmeltzer.com. David at dmeltzer.com. If you feel like God is making you wait, then do what waiters do. Serve.
Serve.
So the AAA strategy is there for us to give and receive. David at dmeltzer.com. We're going to hand it off after I do a quick conclusion to the incredible Blaine Bartlett to do Q&A. Remember, everyone, in this idea of the love language of time, that our future is not determined by what we wish for. It's determined by what we consistently do, say, think, feel, believe with time that we have been given, the 24 hours that we're given every single day, guaranteed, no matter what, except for the last day of your life, it will be cheated. The people who create these extraordinary lives are not always the smartest, the luckiest, or the most talented. Trust me. They're simply more intentional with their time, more intentional in time with energy, attention, and behavior. They pay attention to and give intention to the coincidences they want. And the universe cooperates, it coincides with that attention and intention. How we spend our time reveals exactly what we value and who we are becoming. Time is our love language because how we spend our time reveals exactly what we love or what we've learned to love. What we value, what we feel, and what we believe is possible. When we align our lives with intentional action, consistent discipline, gratitude, and most importantly, service, we don't just manage time, we maximize our lives. This has been the love language of time training. If you'd like a copy of the guides and exercises from today, David at dmeltzer.com. If you'd like a replay of this training, David at dmeltzer.com. I am blessed to have the amazing Blaine Bartlett as my partner at the Napoleon Hill Institute, a chief chancellor of the Institute and of junior achievement as well, the 7th largest charity in the world, and also on the board of Unstoppable. We share my 3 favorite purposes and causes, philanthropies that exist. Just go ahead. Remember, I'm going to be in South Coast Plaza today, Newport Beach tomorrow. We'll be in Japan. We will be in Louisville, Kentucky with Nick Saban. That'll be really cool. Tim Story, Marie Diamond. We'll be in Kalamazoo, Michigan, season 11 at the Wynn in Las Vegas of Office Hours. Blaine will be a part of season 11, I'm sure. And then back to Newport Beach. Remember to stay informed of all these trainings that I do, all the meetups, holding court, so that I don't have to be only in front of 2 people ever again. Please get into our invite list, David at dmeltzer.com, or our text community, area code 949. Next 3 numbers, 298. Last 4 numbers, 2905. 949-298-2905. Thank you, everyone. Remember, when I hand it off to Blaine for Q&A, be more interested than interesting, and be kind. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Take it over, Blaine.
Thank you, my friend. Let's talk about Japan before you get out of here. All right. Hey, how you doing? It's good to be here.
With our community. And I want to thank everybody as well here in the Breakfast with Champions for joining us for the love language of time training today. And as a reminder, to be repetitive and annoying as any good leader is, if you would like the guide and exercise from today's training, or for any reason, if you do not have a copy of David's book, all you need to do is email him directly to get both. David at dmeltzer.com. Once again, that is just David at dmeltzer.com. And of course, for all of our friends here in the Breakfast with Champions, I will make sure to put that in the room chat. But without further ado, let's get rocking and rolling with some Q&A. We got a ton of friends here. And for everybody that's online, please put your questions in the chat for Blaine today. And for everybody here on Clubhouse, go ahead and request to join the stage, and we will, of course, bring you up. But for our first question, it's my pleasure to pass it over to the wonderful Marianne. So Marianne, happy, what's today? Wednesday? Happy Wednesday. Why don't you unmute yourself and kick us off with the first question.
Hi, Nick. Thanks. Hi, Blaine.
Hey, Marianne. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. So, I'm a little frustrated with what I hear here, because I'm such a master with other people's calendars. And what all of a sudden I'm hearing, even though I've heard this training before, I'm actually not the master I think I am with my own calendar.
Yeah.
Even though it's things that I love to do and stuff, I'm still fitting them in, and I really need to close that gap. So do I get an accountability buddy, or what do I do for myself? Because I'm strategic when it comes to other people's calendars.
Mm-hmm. Marianne, accountability partner wouldn't be a bad idea. One other thing that you can play with, I think, that you might find useful is, and I mentioned this in the training that I just, David and I just did, the idea of patterns. When you start looking at and you do an audit, a forensic audit, if you will, of your calendar, just sit down and just take the last month And where are the patterns? What patterns do you see in terms of what you think has been added that shouldn't have been added? Yeah, and what's the story you told yourself such that it did get added? That sort of thing comes into play. And I mentioned the story I tell myself. There's a distinction between um, what I feel is urgent, that it should be done, that I need to have it done. And those are all going to be driven by external forces typically. And there are going to be things that are on there that I don't particularly enjoy doing, but they are absolutely crucial to where I want to, what I want to have, do, or be. That piece about what I love. So when I talk to people about difficulty in managing the calendar, they're usually falling into the camp of, this is stuff I enjoy doing, so I'm going to put it on my calendar. And I want to be able to actually step back from that a little bit. And I'm not talking about being Spartan in this. I am talking about being discreet. What matters? I enjoy doing this, but does it matter right now in the bigger picture of what it is that I say I'm up to? So that's, if you're prioritizing well with other people's calendars, you've got a pretty good sense of what matters with them.
Yeah.
So you're able to be that filter for them. You need to do the same thing for yourself. So it starts with, very clearly identifying what matters here.
Yeah, and the story that I'm telling myself is like, I'm building capacity, and those things keep entering, and I keep shifting the calendar, removing and then replacing. Though I'm tired of doing that. I just want to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, stop trying and just do.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I heard the training say much differently, so thank you.
Yeah, you bet, Marianne. It's good to hear your voice.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for getting us started. And for the next question of the day, I'm going to pass it over to Marco Antonio, who is here live in the Breakfast with Champions on Clubhouse. Marco, my friend, happy Wednesday. Always good to see you here. Appreciate the way that you show up. Why don't you unmute yourself and carry us on with the next question?
Morning, Nick. Good morning, Blaine.
Morning, Marco Antonio.
A lot of gems, man. I think today what really stuck out to me was about learning to love what we don't love. And I heard you mention asking the question, like, what, for the sake of what am I doing this?
Yeah.
But do you have a framework for leaning into the necessary things that we don't love to do, but that we need to learn to love?
Yeah. The framework actually is pretty simple, Marco Antonio, and it does start with the question, what matters? I mean, Simon Sinek talks about, why, why do we do this? And we can confuse that with purpose and that sort of thing. And I say confuse it with purpose. It sometimes is not the same thing. You want to go a little bit, I find for me, I'll just speak for myself. When I started really working this, the question, what matters, was a different question. It took it down 2 or 3 levels from, why am I doing this? Or, what's important about this? What matters goes really kind of to the core. So when I talk about, doing things that I don't particularly enjoy doing, I'm doing this because it matters in what way? It matters for what? So, I mean, a very simple example of this is, accounting. Quarterly. Yeah, I've got to be sure that we've got our books straight and that kind of stuff. I hate that stuff. I just do not enjoy numbers. I don't enjoy working with that. But what matters to me is being financially viable in a way that allows me to do what I want to do. So I know that I have to do that in order to understand where we're at fiscally. And so I'm willing to put that on the calendar. I'm willing to hold that as something that is important to be done and that doesn't get off the calendar. That time is non-negotiable. I do not enjoy it, but it matters. So I have to be able to link what matters to everything that I'm doing, in some way, shape, or form. And if it doesn't pass muster, if it doesn't facilitate, if it doesn't contribute to what matters to me, then it falls off the calendar or it takes a lower priority.
Thank you, Blaine. So sit with it a little deeper for myself.
Yeah.
And ask, why am I doing this? Like, why does this even matter? Usually when I see a sign that I want to do something, you know, the thing I tell myself is, hey, lean in. You know, I don't want to do this. Lean in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more of like a reaction, not really like there's no meaning behind it. Just
That's
I
the
gotta
key.
do it.
That's the key. If I've got to get up at 5 a.m. and go running, I'd better have a for the sake of what that makes it worth getting out of bed. Marcus Aurelius talked about that in his book Meditations. Yeah, he was the Roman emperor. He was the most powerful person on the planet. And he would prefer, pulling the covers back up at 5 a.m. and just going back to sleep. But he would get out of bed, and in the Meditations is his private journal. And when you read that, he's actually journaling to himself, saying, "It would be easy for me to go back to bed. I do not like getting up early, but what matters to me is," and then he would talk about what matters to him for that day. That would compel him to get out of bed at 5 a.m. Now, he didn't have a clock, so I'm just making 5 a.m. up, but at the crack of dawn. So that sort of a thing. What matters makes a big difference.
Thank you, Blaine. Appreciate you, brother.
You bet, buddy. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Blaine and Marco Antonio, for the great question, as always. For our next question today, we got about 13 minutes left here in today's training, the love language of time, in this Q&A session with the double B. That's Blaine Bartlett. You can reach him at blainebartlett.com. For our next question, I'm going to pass it over to Allie, who has been patiently waiting here on stage. So, Allie, always good to see you here. Unmute yourself and carry us on.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, Blaine.
Hey, Allie. Welcome back.
Thank you. Happy Wednesday.
You too.
My question today, obviously incredible training all the way around, but if time is the ultimate expression of love, how do you discern where to place your time during seasons of realignment when you're clear on the life that you want to create, but unclear on which present path is truly aligned to lead you there, while also making sure that financially it's secure and also aligned?
A bundled question. Think about it in terms of seasons, Allie. I live in the Pacific Northwest here in the United States, and we have definite seasons. We've got summer moving into fall, fall moving into winter, winter moves into spring, and then spring kind of comes back, and next thing I know, it's summer again. And that is pretty consistent. So the interesting thing about seasonality is each season has a hallmark that kind of defines it. I know when I'm in summer. I know when I'm in winter. I don't do the same things in winter that I did in summer. During the winter time, we've got a lot less daylight than we have in the summertime. Summertime up here where I'm at, it's light until about 10:30 at night. In the wintertime, it's it goes dark at about 4:30. So it really dictates. Time will dictate what I'm going to be actually investing in at that moment, in that season, at that point in time, in time, literally. So the interesting thing about, just metaphorically again here, winter for us, for human beings, and I'm going to use this metaphorically, is a time where things don't look like much is happening. And the snow is covering the ground metaphorically. So we could experience it, that winter time in our life is kind of being cold with, not a lot of activity. There's even a loss of purpose that can be experienced. What's it all about, Alfie? I don't know. I'm kind of struggling here. I don't know where I'm going, that sort of stuff. I need to be able to sit in that for a while. And that's probably the most difficult thing to do, is particularly for high performing people that are used to producing a lot. I want to be able to sit in that for a while until something begins to emerge, which is called, metaphorically again, springtime. When spring starts to kick in, all of a sudden we've got new shoots that begin, new ideas. I'll put it in human terms. We've got new ideas that begin to pop up, and it's kind of like, I hadn't thought about that. And I start to feel more inspired again. And I may explore a number of these different shoots that are coming up, going, that was kind of interesting. Let me go look at that. And now that doesn't seem to hold water. And so I'll play around a little bit. All of a sudden, I'll find one that just goes, that one could really be worth, spending some time with, investing some work with. And the next thing I know, I'm writing that idea into summertime, and lo and behold, it's a beautiful sunshiny day, and this thing is really bearing a lot of fruit. So all of that, life works in cycles. It's not a straight linear construct. And I will have seasons in my career. I'll have seasons in my marriage. I'll have seasons in my health and well-being. I will have, just kind of fill in the blank. Each major chunk of my life will have seasonality dynamics associated with it. And if I can just appreciate that as a function of the nature of time, then it allows me to not suffer and to actually celebrate. I'm in winter right now. Isn't this wonderful? I get to just kind of take a breath and see what emerges. That sort of stuff starts to come into play. Now, because there's so many different balls in play here, so many different areas of my life that are in motion here, I'm going to have, this kind of answers the monetary side of your question here. There's going to be stuff where I'm actually, there will be things that are making money while I'm, chilling in another area of my life. So all of that starts to come into play here. What I want to move away from eventually is having my monetary compensation, my fiscal health and well-being dependent on time for money for hours, sort of a thing, personal performing. I want to be able to have invested in a way that is generating money while I'm sleeping in some way, shape, or form. So I don't have to stress about it when I go into a winter stage. So I want to, and this kind of goes back to something that Marco Antonio was talking about. For the sake of what am I, doing this? For the sake of what am I taking time to invest in this business that is going to be running by itself when I'm not present? That sort of a thing. So I start expanding my, my repertoire, my portfolio of businesses, if you will. Both David and I have got a number of different things that are operating for us, where we don't have to be right in front of it every day, and we're not trading money for hours, that sort of stuff. So you kind of play with it a little bit, and I go back to for the sake of what. I keep coming back to for the sake of what. Hope that's helpful, Ali.
No, that was great. Thank you so much, Blaine. Spoke right to me and chapter that I'm in currently, and just a beautiful reminder. A lot of it is mindset and to persevere. And I love how you reframed it to seasons, because that's exactly what I'm in, and I know that there's light on the other side. So thank you.
You bet. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ali. And we got about 6 minutes left here. I'm going to use, for our next question, I'm going to pass it over to our friend Mike, who has been patiently waiting here on stage. So Mike, please feel free to unmute yourself and carry us on. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Doing fantastic, Blaine. Fantastic. Question is in regarding the investment of time in certain activities. What is the one investment of time in certain activity that's a non-negotiable for you every day that feels like it grounds you and kind of propels you into the day that allows you also to get back time, if that makes sense as well? I'm always curious and what that non-negotiable for everybody that grounds them moving forward into the day as well.
I read. When I say I read, I'm actually studying. I've got on my desk a collection of writings by Neville Goddard. That's what I'm actually studying right now. I've been doing this work with Goddard for, good Lord, 15 years. And right now I've got a book stand here that is open, and I keep reading the same page, the same chapter over and over and over again, make notes on the side. I study it. And what's really the message in there? So this is how I actually ground myself for the day. And it's asymmetrical. I don't just read the chapter because it's the next in sequence. As soon as I've actually kind of exhausted my experience with that particular passage or that particular chapter, I'll just kind of close the book and then open it up in random and take a look at, okay, what's appearing next? and I play a game. If the universe was trying to tell me something, what would be in this passage or in this chapter that I'm supposed to be paying attention to right now? And then that kind of guides my study. And then it will take as long as it takes. Sometimes it takes just that day. Sometimes it'll take a week, and I'll keep coming back to it, every morning for a week for something. And there's been a couple of passages that I've spent a month on, and just kind of dissected it, chewed on it, put it into my language, wrote about it, that sort of stuff. But it's that study, and it's not long. I only spend about an hour a day doing this, and it's usually well, not usually. It is the very first thing I do in the morning when I come down to my office.
I love it. Thank you for sharing, Blaine. It's also interesting your perspective on studying and the intention you put into that. For example, rather than reading it once or twice, it's like the fact you saying that you spent a month on something like that is incredible. So I appreciate you sharing.
You bet, Mike.
Awesome. And for our final question of the day, with the final 3 minutes that we have here, I'm going to pass it over to our two favorite letters in the alphabet. That is, of course, G and G. So, Gigi, great to see you as always. Why don't you unmute yourself and close us out with the final question of the day?
Hello, happy Wednesday. And also, thank you, Blaine, and thank you, Nick, for that warm introduction. So, Blaine, my question is, because I notice you and Dave always make sure you relax and have downtime. And most people think when it comes to time and calendar that they need to cramp it up. What is the biggest mistake people do when it comes to their calendar and their time?
They overfill it. I think that's they look at I've got space in the calendar, so I must put something in it. No, you don't have to put anything in it. And I've talked about this before. White space, if we just look at it from a marketing advertising perspective, particularly with print media, some of the most effective advertising in print media makes incredible use of white space, where there's nothing, but what's on the page actually stands out because of the white space. So with my calendar, if I've got empty space in it, I want to respect that. And the only thing that will go onto that empty space is something that is consistent with what it is that I say I want to have, do, or be in my life. That what matters thing. The space is empty for a reason. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't put stuff in there. My wife will come in and she'll say, let's go out for dinner tonight. I'm going, okay, great. I look at the calendar and I've got space in the calendar to do that. But we want to be able to guard the calendar, and that white space is important. It gives me time to think. It gives me time to feel as if I'm not pressured to be somewhere, to do something, that sort of stuff. And I can allow myself the freedom to actually luxuriate, if you will, luxuriate in it, and just kind of experience being as opposed to doing. And when we can give ourselves permission to just be, that's a great gift. A lot of people aren't comfortable just being with themselves. And white space gives me that ability to be with myself.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Blaine. And really quick before I let you go, if you don't mind, a final question for you, which is in relation to that love language of time. You just hit on a very specific note that I think will resonate with just about everybody in this room. Being high performers is outside of practicing, because that's truly the only way to get better at something. Do you have a framework or a message that you can help tell yourself to get better with the practice of just being still or not having something on your calendar? Because as high performers, as you said, right, we're always trying to fill that next gap. And we neglect the opportunity to just be still with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to understand, outside of just practicing, which is the best way or the only way to get better at anything, if there's a certain secret sauce or a framework that you utilize to be comfortable and confident in doing so.
Yeah, that's a great question, Nick. I think the easiest way to understand that and to appreciate it is to recognize that for most people that are high performers, if there's an empty spot on their calendar, They feel like they're wasting time. And that is so the answer to your question here has to do with, yeah, it's a reframing process. I need to frame the, the use of that time as something that is valuable, that is valued. It's not, I'm not wasting time. I'm not letting it dripple. I just made up a word here. I'm not letting it, just kind of go through the hourglass without any consequence or without any significance. It's going through the hourglass with purpose, with intentionality. There doesn't have to be a tangible result that's coming out of it, which is where high performers actually begin to look at, okay, what's the consequence of that chunk of time? What occurred in there? Well, what occurred is I got to spend some time with myself. Yeah. So it's not a waste. I got to know myself a little better. I got to, spend some time just kind of unbundling. I want to be able to reframe it so that it doesn't, so I'm not experiencing it as a waste of time. That
That's
language makes a big
fantastic.
difference. That language makes it, how I describe something determines my experience of it, which generates my behavior. So if I want to actually fully engage that white space, I want to be sure that the description process I'm engaging, how I'm describing it to myself, is consistent with what it is that I'm trying to make happen with that. Because any interference, which will happen at the emotive state, how I describe it as a waste of time, and I find myself going on, all of a sudden I'm feeling perturbed, and that interference will have an impact.
Absolutely. And I love that point, Blaine. And I think it's a great way to close out today's training, which is the love language of time, let alone today's Q&A session. And, it really resonates with me because one of my favorite lessons is be careful what you say because you're always listening. And so
Exactly.
that simple reframing from the I'm wasting time to now I'm investing time in just self, or getting to know thyself, or so on and so forth, I think is a very, very powerful tool. And I know for everybody that's online, of course, as we are multicasting on all platforms, let alone here in the Breakfast with Champions, they would love to get themselves some more of the double B. And outside of you joining us as our special guest on these Napoleon Hill Institute trainings, where can people join you, or where can they get in touch with you with the additional questions they may have, or of course, just touching the expression of God and genius that you're able to provide to so many?
Yeah, the easiest way is I'm on LinkedIn. So that's probably one way that you can directly access me. The other one is my personal website, blainebartlett.com, and my email is bbartlett at avatar-resources.com. And Avatar Resources is my company, and that's avatar-resources.com. So yeah, either one of those websites will have a link, that you can DM me at. And I'm on office hours with David every Thursday, and we do this training every Wednesday. So my website, we've got a lot of resources there that people can have access to, and I'm certainly available. So do not hesitate to reach out to me. There's a calendar on there that we might be able to book some time if you want to.
That's fantastic. And thank you so much, Blaine, not just for the way that you show up, but the way that you truly do it for the sake of helping others. So we love you. We appreciate you. And we will see you next Wednesday for the next edition of our Napoleon Hill Institute training. For everybody else that has joined us, we want to thank you for joining us here today. Of course, as a reminder, if you would like the guide and exercise from today's training, or even just to get a copy of David's book, if for any reason you do not have one, all you need to do is email David directly, David at dmeltzer.com. Once again, that is just David at dmeltzer.com. And as a quick review in terms of where we are going to be adding on a car wash in each and every one of the cities, which is the addition of a community meetup, holding court, or even one of our VIP dinners for charity, come and join us tomorrow, as we are going to be in Newport Beach for our mastermind with Tim Story and John Coyle and, of course, Jay Abraham and many, many others, adding on a car wash there as well. Then it'll be off to the Japan edition of the Car Wash series. Then we'll be in Louisville, Kentucky with Nick Saban and Matt Ebert, the CEO of Crash Champions. It'll be off from there to Kalamazoo, Michigan with the Zeigler Auto Group, of course, adding on car washes in both of those locations. Then back to Viva Las Vegas for Office Hours TV show season number 11, plus a car wash, and then rounding things back out in Newport Beach, California for another edition of our Mastermind series with Tim Story and many, many others. So if you would like these reminders on where we're going to be in over 200 invitations, but not obligations a year, all you're going to need to do is text us at area code 949. Next 3 digits are 298. Last 4 digits are 2905. Of course, we will hit you with the jingle at the end of the show here to remind you as well. We will, of course, be live again this upcoming Friday for the next edition of David's Free Friday trainings that he's been doing for over 28 years. And then rinse and repeat for next week, back with an Ask Me Anything on Monday and some more Napoleon Hill Institute training with the double B, that's Blaine Bartlett, next Wednesday. So we look forward to seeing you all again there. But in the meantime, have an incredible rest of your Wednesday ahead. And as David always says, be more interested than interesting, and be kind. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Gigi, close us out with the jingle in our video.
Hey! 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 Oh, hey! Wanna know where David's gonna be? Get invites, updates, and community. When he's in your city, you won't miss a thing. Just text the number, let your phone ring, 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 ring. 949-290-2905. That's 949-290-2905. Hey! Events, connection, and opportunity, all in one place. Come join the community. So text it now, don't wait in line. Right for life. 949-290-2905. That's 949-290-2905.
They discovered it, they read it, and they applied it. It's the golden thread that connects the titans of the self-development industry, the source that spawned millions of millionaires, the original blueprint to success.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a classic. A classic.
And I love Think and Grow Rich. I love it. It's right here. I mean, it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
This material is what changed my life. This is the material I study every day. From being an immigrant woman, coming from poverty, and really coming to America and literally achieving the American dream. I can't even tell you how grateful I am for this man, for what he did for me and my family.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
People don't realize is that when we let our ego get in our way, ego is the loss, the fear of loss. So need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be hurt, fearful. When that trajectory changes, what happens is you continually go the wrong way. So my job as a coach is to say, let's get into the enjoyment of the direct pursuit of my potential. Right? And so when the light went on, it was not about the potential of making money and being an entrepreneur, which is one of my specialties. And I said to him, look, this is an opportunity now to show how great you really are. We can't let the outside voices, right, determine our success. The happiness that we have comes within. Why are you going to give that control to somebody else?
Thoughts become things. And I always wonder, why did no one teach us this? Why did we not learn this in school? Why did we not learn this from our families? If you make your study a priority, your life will change.
And I came up with 4 really valuable things that I took stock in. And the first one was gratitude. Simple gratitude. Although I grew up with nothing, I was always grateful. Throughout the whole process of consistently, persistently pursuing my potential, I was grateful. It made my past better, my present brighter, and my future even brighter than that. In fact, I tell people all the time, if you want to change your life, change your employee's life, your family life, it's very simple. 2 words: say thank you.